October and November bring us together to remember two moments, both beautiful and painful. One marks the signing of the Jordan-Israel peace treaty, and the other recalls the assassination of Prime Minister Itzhak Rabin. Together, they form the twin pillars of our shared narrative, one born of courage, the other of loss. They remind us that behind every treaty and every tragedy lies the same human longing for security and for prosperity. Yet too often, a single narrative is being pushed, one that dismisses the peace between Jordan and Israel as cold, as something imposed from above. But that cliche obscures a deeper reality, overlooking the fact that after 31 years, the treaty still stands in a region where warmth is elusive and agreements are fragile. Nothing imposed from above without shared purpose and interest could have endured this long. This is not a cold peace, it's a robust peace. It has never been about temperature, it has always been about endurance. It's a piece of resolve tested by crises, yet anchored in strategic clarity, and it continues to serve both nations' vital interests. Nothing proves this more clearly than the past 2 years, during which this treaty has faced some of its hardest tests, and yet again, it endures. Yes, there are voices on both sides that speaks of hatred and accusations that both peoples are drifting to the right, but even amid polarization, glimpses of hope shine unapologetic. In Israel, thousands gathered recently to commemorate Rabin's assassination after years in which this day had slipped from Israel's national consciousness, and we witnessed something remarkable, the presence of young Israelis at that commemoration. Their presence reflects an awakening, a recognition that Rabin's legacy, in all its complexity, still speaks to the young hearts of Israel today. And in Jordan, the silent majority continues to defy the louder voices, seeing peace not as a relic of the past or a legacy of a great leader, but as a safeguard for Jordan's vital interests, an expression of putting Jordan's priorities first, as it should be. Let there be no illusion that this peace is guaranteed. Its resilience depends on leaders who choose political courage over complacency and on the willingness of both peoples to protect what was so bravely begun. And of course, much work lies ahead. When I look at the region today, I see a paradox, enormous potential for a new strategic order, yet equally powerful forces pulling it apart. In simple terms, Israel is shaping the emerging security landscape, while the Arab and Gulf countries are defining the diplomatic one. And the tension between these two centers of gravity will determine whether the Middle East moves toward integration or further fragmentation. Since October 7, Israeli operations from Beirut to Tehran reflected an assumption that regional order can be engineered only through coercive sequencing, through neutralizing threats, through decapitating leadership, and imposing new red lines by force. This is not merely a military strategy, it's a traumatic worldview, one that's shaped by the shock of October 7 and rooted in the conviction that Israel must never be dependent on any partner for its own security. Yet, the April 12th attack and later the Qatar strike exposed both the reach and the fragility of this Israeli logic. The rapid interception of Iranian missiles by the Middle East Air Defense Network, which was orchestrated under the CENTCOM, demonstrated the most sophisticated regional coordination ever seen. This was a prototype of Middle Eastern NATO and a proof that collective defense is possible when threats are shared. Yet, that very success revealed dependence. Israel air defense would have been overwhelmed without Arab airspace cooperation and, of course, the US ammunition. Then came the Doha attack, which ruptured the trust and the momentum created in April. A shared security moment ended in the collapse of confidence. So, yes, Israel shapes the security map, but it does so in a way that risks isolating itself from the very partners it depends on, whether it admits that dependence or not. Meanwhile, the Gulf states have become the region's diplomatic center of gravity. Their strategy is focused on stability, on economic diversification, and insulation from conflict. And after Gaza, they re anchored diplomacy around legitimacy. They revived the Arab Peace Initiative, they linked normalization with Israel to Palestinian statehood, and they positioned themselves as indispensable partners in reconstruction era. But their central fear is basically entrapment, that Israel's kinetic strategy could ignite conflicts that endanger their population, their economies, and even their physical survival. And this placed them on a coalition course with Israel's militarized unilateralism. So, despite these tensions, a unique window remains open. Iran's vulnerability following the weakening of its proxies network has created an opportunity for a new regional security compact, one that could neutralize not only Iran's disruptive role, but also non state actors like Al Qaeda and Daesh. So, if regional actors can build on the April model, integrating defense coordination with diplomatic frameworks, we could see the emergence of a sustainable regional order. But the greatest challenge is that these two spheres, security and diplomacy, are still evolving in isolation rather than in coordination, even as Iran and its proxies are working to rebuild their capabilities in the region. So, if this tension hardens into rivalry, if Tel Aviv's action continue to undercut the Arab diplomatic effort, the result could be a fragmented, heavily armed, mistrustful region, one that ultimately benefits Iran and its proxies. But if these two centers of power can converge, if Israel tempers its doctrine of coercion and the Gulf embeds diplomacy within a framework of shared defense, then this moment could truly redefine the region's trajectory. And together, they could move the Middle East from reactive defense to proactive stability.